Welcome to Mama's Teaching Tips.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Mama's Teaching Tips. Today I'm going to be going through a maths teaching tip, and in particular it's how to teach place value. So before we begin, for anyone actually wondering what place value is, it's the importance or the value of each of the numbers within its whole number. So for example, when children move on from numbers 1 to 10, or actually you could say 1 to 9, and they move on to 2-digit numbers, it's really important for them to know what 2-digit numbers are actually made of, i.e. when there's a number such as 12, what the 1 in the 12 represents and what that 2 in the 12 represents. So in the number 12, as you can see here, we're showing children the 1 represents a 10. So I usually would show my girls this using, building a tower block of 10 blocks and then showing 2 units on the side, or even a little tower block of 2 units. And what we do is when we build the tower blocks, we say our blocks cannot go higher than 10 blocks. So we can only ever make tower blocks as high as 10 units. And then once we've built that, that's a 10, and that's how they all stay. And then everything else will be added on the side in our little community. So that's I teach it with a little context, but that's obviously for the early years. We're actually looking today at teaching place value with higher numbers and for older children ranging between year 1s and year 2s. Before we actually begin teaching place value, please ensure your children can count well, and also that they can count in tens. I think that's really important because once they're then dealing with tens and units, they're able to count each 10 rod in tens, 20s, 30s, and so on. So we've covered points 1, where we said ensure your children can count in tens and they're confident in counting from 1 to 100. And number 2, we said introduce the concept of tens and units. So this is where you'll be breaking down numbers and explaining how each of the numbers in a 2-digit number has its own value. And obviously you can do this visually. So in our own example, we actually made our own tens and units using lolly sticks and wooden cubes that we bought here. And in doing so, we helped the children understand, as we were doing it, how 10 of the wooden cubes got squished into a lolly stick. Obviously, ideally, if you're able to purchase the 10 sticks and the units, and that's great too, but I don't see any harm in doing it this way as well. So this is actually one of the best ways to introduce teen numbers. So once they've started understanding a number with the number of items, and then you can do the same thing with teen numbers. And then the only difference is that you can, again, like I said, make up the story that we are only allowed to build tower blocks of 10 units, 10 blocks. Another important thing for us as mums and educators is to allow our children to take their time to understand. Now I'm going to show you one of my daughter's, this is like a recorded bit of work that we did. A lot of it was practical to begin with. And if you look at the date, we actually did this in 2019 in March. So it's coming to a year now of us practicing just place value. And obviously she has moved on, and we're looking more at now larger 2-digit numbers and moving on to 3-digit as well. But it does take time, and I really believe that the visual way and the practical way is the best way. So don't get flustered or frustrated with your kids, like they are still tiny, and they will get to understand this. For us then, we moved on to place value cards to visually understand. So as we started looking at bigger numbers, moving on to numbers under 100, we started looking at these place value cards. You can actually make them yourself. They're just arrow cards, and the 10 cards are obviously slightly bigger, and then you can place the units on top to show exactly how this number is 54. Here's an example of a 3-digit number and we use it the same way. So we'd build on the hundreds here by placing the tens on top, and then show how the units are then covered to make this number as 354. So it's a really clever way, and it's quite simple, very straightforward, but for anyone feeling like it's taking time with the kids, that's absolutely fine. It's a concept that will take time, and just don't rush them. And number 5 is checking the understanding through sums. So this isn't something that can only just be done practically. It's quite nice to get something on paper and then to check whether our children have understood exactly what we mean by place value and how they can apply that in word problems or general maths sums. So I'll show you some examples now. So here's a useful worksheet that I downloaded from Twinkle, which simply shows the hundreds, the tens and the units. And once my daughter understood each of them and how they visually are, she was able to understand how that much is made into a particular number, such as 355. You need 300 squares, 5 tens and 5 units. So she could visually see which number was also the largest, but also understand through the value of the number as well. And a maths app that we downloaded called Pieces Basic is quite a nice one to help our kids visually understand tens and units and 100 squares. So Amara here is going to demonstrate how we can make, for example, the number 25. Can you help me make that using this? Okay, so you could tap along for each of those. Can you move that 10 along so we can see 2 tens? Lovely. Here's another example of how a number can be explained. So in a number form, it's 18, and then in words, that means it's 1 tens and 8 units. And an expanded form, by that they just mean an addition sum, it's 10 plus 8 to give us 18, and then you can draw it as a picture. So it's really just drilling in the concept of our children understanding what each of the numbers' values are and where they're situated. Currently now my daughter's working on column addition practice, so she's looking at how to add tens and units. Fairly simple at the moment, then we'll move on to adding the hundreds column, but we're kind of going with addition first and then subtraction, and then she's understood why, for example, we'll need to carry over a 10 in the number 14, for example. So just for her, because she understands number, sums like this will now make sense, hopefully. So that's pretty much it. This is Hafsa at Mama Teaches Me with Mama's Teaching Tips, teaching you today how to teach place value to your children. So just to review, number 1, make sure your kids can count in tens and are confident in counting to 100. Number 2, introduce the concept of tens and units, showing them what numbers are made up of and all the rest. And number 3, let them take the time to understand. Don't rush them. Just keep coming back to it a couple of weeks later. They will get it in the end. Number 4, use place value cards to visually help them understand. And then you can check their understanding by number 5 at the end through sums and worksheets and all the rest. We hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Give it a thumbs up and a like if you liked it, and share with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.